Okay, well, good evening, all you Zoomers. Thank you for coming to the world-famous Sail Power Steam Museum, South Rockland's finest maritime museum. And of course, you can hear the thundering applause now, can't you? I'm Captain Jim Sharp. This is my pretty little wife, Meg, behind me here. What would we do without a good woman behind us? She's going to make sure we keep on the straight and narrow here. We have a wonderful program tonight on the Ladona. But of course, first we have to sit through the commercial. So those of you that have been through this before, you probably know this commercial by heart. But I get such a kick out of doing it, we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. But there are a few other new pictures here. We start out last fall. There's our, no, that isn't moving. Now, wait a minute. There. Last fall, we started out last fall, right in the heart of this pandemic, and that's what the area looked like last fall. Now, of course, it looks like this. Up in the upper left, you can see the summertime. That's what it looked like in the beginning of the summer. And now, of course, it looks like the lower picture right there with a fall flower in front of it and the flag flying. Beautiful brand new building. We are using it as a boat shed. We have 20 boats, antique boats that we'll be putting in there, and we'll have on display wonderful old Herreshoff 12.5, some old Beetle Cats. These are all 1920s boats. We have 2 friendship sloops, a Musconga sloop. We have all kinds of different boats that will be in that 4,000 square feet of that building. So come and see that. It was wonderful frontispiece we have. We clicking this on time, Robin? Right on the very front of the museum, we have this wonderful carving. Yellow, huh? Is it clicking in time?
Sorry, yeah, seems to be.
Yeah, we've had a little technical problem getting the film to catch up to the voice, so let me know if it isn't doing that. We have this wonderful carving out of granite. Look at this carving by Joe Osceola of a schooner going wing and wing. Magnificent carving right there in the front of the museum. My wife commissioned that for me for my 88th birthday. Can you believe that?
Ah.
And one of the things that really gets me excited is our skiff program, of course. Sail Kids for free. Sail Kids, we take kids from 6 to 14 years old and we give them a whole week of sail training absolutely free. They come on Monday, they don't know, look at these kids on the left side there. Little tiny kids, they don't know anything about a boat, they don't know how to set the sail, they don't know what a rudder is, they don't know, and they get there and they figure out this thing. It's really so exciting. Monday they come and they don't want to let go of their mother's hand because there are all these strange kids there. Tuesday they get there and they're so excited about grabbing their sails and running down and rigging their boat, they just can't get there in time. Wednesday they're turning the boats over, they're learning how to right them and bail them out, and then of course it always ensues into a water fight. And then Thursday, they're out there, the lower picture, they're out there sailing, and by Friday, it's the great race, and they're going all around the courses. Wonderful program we have for kids, and this is the way we work it. The first day, of course, is the orientation, and the second day, it's their first time as captain. These are little Optimus prams, 1 man to a boat, and you have to learn to sail it or you don't get back home. But we're, of course, going around in the chase boat and shouting at them and telling them what to do, how to do it, and they're doing it. They're all doing it on their own. They're so excited they forget all about their telephone and everything else. This is the way we work it. Look at this little kid here on the left. He was so proud of the fact that he was out sailing in that boat. You just see him smiling all over the place. And the 2 guys on the other side there running wing and wing off together. These are the kind of things that just make me warm and fuzzy all over. This is how we do it. If you contribute to the skiff program, $100 to the skiff program, we'll give a kid a whole week of sail training. We guarantee you an additional bonus. We will put another kid out there in another boat for the same $100. 2 kids. So there in the top, you see, we have 2 kids out there for $100. And for $200, you donate $200, you get 4 kids out there. You see all 4 of them in the picture. And $300, you get 6 kids. And 5, you get 8, 4, you get 8 kids. Well, you know, you do the math. I get it all mixed up. and all the way down until we have a whole class. We have 22 of these Optimist brands. So we can't do it without you. Come and help us out. Get these kids on the water. You'll love to see them there. Every day, something else comes into the museum. Someone gives us something else, and it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. The latest thing that was given to us is a vessel, a catch-rig vessel called the Morning in Maine. And she is a wonderful vessel that carries passengers in Rockland Harbor. So we're working on getting a captain to run it for next summer so that we can use it in support of the museum and use it for sail training as well. And it's really quite a wonderful, amazing donation.
Okay.
Well, great opportunity for everybody. Well, let's go on now. We got to move on to the Ladona. Schooner Ladona, a fantastic vessel. We got a nice long program for you tonight, and it's all very convoluted. The Ladona is a magnificent vessel built in 1922. That was a wonderful year. That was the first year the Bowdoin went north. Bowdoin was by the same designer and by the same builder as Ladona. And we'll learn more about that as we go on here. There she is when she was brand new in May 1922. Looks like they hadn't put the ballast in her yet. She looks like a bobbing cork there. But what a beautiful, beautiful hull, beautiful shape. William Hand design and magnificent yacht. She's a race winner. There's her sail plan. She was a stational schooner, not a gaff-headed schooner like the traditional boats in Maine. But this was during the evolution when they were sporting Marconi rigs in a lot of these boats in the 20s. And really quite an impressive vessel, especially with the sleek hull that she has. She's always been known for her beauty and her swiftness. If you have any trouble seeing this, this will all be on YouTube, and you'll be able to stop it and read it. Anyway, christened in 1922 and built by the Hodgdon brothers down in East Boothbay, William Hand design. Beautiful, beautiful designer. And of course, proving her mettle, she won the Bermuda race. There she is in all her finery, under power. She has sail covers on her, nice little awning set over the foredeck there. And of course, Helen Bird Loring, that's her helmsman of the day. They had pretty good luck fishing that day, I guess. Certainly have enough for a grand meal trussed up in the rigging there. And with her small boats hanging on David's long side, you can tell that she was as yar as they come. Beautiful, beautiful yacht in those days. The old skipper over there with his walrus mustache, keeping an eye on everything. During the war, she was commandeered and served as on submarine patrol. These old schooners were good for submarine patrol because they weren't worth using up a torpedo when the U-boats would come along. They'd see an old schooner. Well, they wouldn't want to waste the torpedo on just an old schooner. But she served her country. Served her country right there. After the war, she was converted into a fishing dragger, working out of Stonington, Connecticut. You can read some of her history there. Unfortunately, I have pictures all of it.
This is Carl Smith. I wanted to go back a couple of pictures with the what do you call it, the swordfish hanging from the railing, from the lines. That the captain was my great-grandfather.
The captain was your great-grandfather, isn't that
interesting? Ernest H. Hokinson.
Did he leave any log?
No.
Did he leave any log books? No.
No, no logbooks.
Well, that's
I've been trying to find the logbooks for the from the U.S. Coast Guard too, and I haven't been able to find any either. But that's Ernest Hoganson, my great grandfather.
Yeah, he's got quite a mustache, huh?
Uh-huh.
So we did a little bit of work. We did some digging in the Department of the Navy to try and find any records of her service, and we were sort of I don't know, that the fellas that I talked to did everything but pat me on the head and chuck me under the chin and send me onto the way. They said we absolutely don't have any records of the Mosquito Fleet whatsoever, but we'll keep looking. We'll keep digging once in a while.
Have you tried the Coast Guard?
I have not tried the Coast Guard yet.
They might have something.
Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing. That's extraordinary. Very cool. Please be in touch anytime if you unearth anything from that time period. Our records and our photographs are basically limited to what you're seeing here today, and you know, we'd love any material that you could come up with, because that was her heyday. Those were her golden days, I think.
Right. I know they were. The beautiful, beautiful boat.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Well,
You're welcome.
As a fishing dragger, they put a pilot house aft and rigged her up for fishing, and had quite a career as a fish boat.
Jim.
In 1960.
Jim, this is Roger Brainerd.
1967, Bob Douglas.
I wanted to back up a minute. I have record of a different owner, a Hobart Ford of New York, who owned her as, I think, maybe the Jane DeRay, participated in the 1936 Bermuda race, which apparently was a very stormy affair, and that she was, I think she got to Bermuda first, but because she was too large, under the new rules, it didn't count under the new rules for the Bermuda race. So just wanted to make sure you had a note of that.
I didn't know that. In 1967, Bob Douglas bought her. When she finished fishing, she was laid up for a while, and he saw the shape of her and decided he better pick her up. And he only owned her one part of a year, and then sold her to Skip Hawkins, who changed the name and brought her into Camden. I can remember when she came into Camden at that time, and she was half a wreck. She really needed to be all rebuilt to make it into a passenger vessel. Skip Hawkins was not the most organized guy in the world, and the first thing he did was varnish the wheel box, so that when he had his picture taken next to the wheel, he would have a nice looking wheel box in the picture. But that's the way it went. He was unsuccessful in his endeavors, and finally ran out of money and ran out of patience and ran out of everything. Everybody around him ran out of patience, and the vessel then was sold off in 1971. Carl Chase and Roger Brainerd picked the vessel up and rebuilt her and made her into a sail training vessel. And I believe Roger's with us. Roger, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, we're happy to have you. Well, I would love to have you tell a little bit about your experiences with the Nathaniel Bowditch.
Well, that was an intensive time in my life. Carl and I had met while we were instructors at Outward Bound, Hurricane Island Outward Bound School. And during the off season, we discovered we both interested in doing something with large schooners. Carl was the one that got us thinking about educational venture. And he had a business plan for something called New World Encounter. And anyway, we got together and discovered the Joseph Hawkins that was for sale. She was lying up in Southwest Harbor, and we had her surveyed, and we eventually bought her to make a floating classroom of her. It turned out the survey wasn't adequate. And so we ended up with a lot more extensive renovation than we had planned. Instead of a 1 year, it was a 2-year effort. And we ended up replacing 60 frames and the horn timber and all the ceiling and about a third of the planking, I think it was. We added 14 tons of lead to her. Half of that was on the keel, which added a foot to her depth. She then drew, I think it was 11.5. And we put another 7 tons inside the hull. One of our biggest issues in the reconstruction was the cement that had been poured in when she was a fishing dragger and we had to remove all that before we could even begin. And we had to, after we stripped everything out of her, we had to use jackhammers, etc., to get the cement out. And that left a tremendous amount of dust in the air, as you can imagine. But being in Stonington, laid up at Billings Yard there, we discovered the use of granite tools like wedges, and so with we'd drill a hole with a hammer, and then we'd put the wedges in and drive a wedge between these two pieces of metal, which were very little things, and by golly, we could split that cement and get rid of it. So saved a lot of dust. So it was, we did quite an extensive job. We were idealists back then, and we thought she'd last forever. We had 2 good seasons. We did this because Billings needed the railway back for the fishing fleet in the end of the first winter. We had to get off. So we brought her back to Bucks Harbor, and we built a dolphin out of the masts. They were spruce, and the surveyor had called them crudely hewn trees, but they turned very useful as a dolphin. So we laid her up in a cove, and she would ground out at low tide, but the tide would come and go. And we built we rented a boathouse there and had a floating walkway out to her, and had our own crew there working. So it was quite something. So it took us till 1970.
Let's go back, Roger. When you reframed her, apparently you put additional frames in between the frames that were already existing. Isn't that correct?
Exactly. Instead of sistering frames or trying to wrestle out the old ones, we put a brand new frame in between in every bay, except for in the stern where the horn timber was bad.
I think these pictures actually are probably Noah's pictures, but you can see all the frames that are in her. Poor old thing, she's almost solid frame after all those frames that you put in it. I thought that was very interesting, an interesting way to rebuild her. But anyway, I'd like to go back then and let you continue on with your story. I wanted to say something about Nathaniel Bowditch, the name, and
yeah, I could.
Everybody
trying to keep this simple. I'm trying to keep this simple because it's quite a story. But yeah, I was telling Jim the other day, Carl and I were driving down to Boston. I can't remember the exact reason, but we had been reading this little children's book, Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, to Nigel Chase, Carl's son. And it was a cute little book, and explained how Nathaniel Bowditch had devised a method to teach sailors, the average sailor, how to navigate. Because back then, the captain was sort of a dictator and the only one that could get a ship home. So the sailors were kind of at their mercy, the captain's mercy. So once they learned that they could also navigate and get the ship home, it democratized the shipboard life a little bit that had never been that way before. So As we were headed in educational direction, this seemed to be a logical name, Nathaniel Bowditch. It should be remembered for what he did for the average sailor back at a time when sailing was everything, and long trips away from home. So we had a couple of good seasons working with schools and colleges. Most of them were private schools and colleges, but it turned out we were having a great time educationally, making a big difference. One of the things I'd like to mention is that we almost got the Bowditch into the movie Jaws, because we sailed into Edgartown Harbor, and there was a film crew operating on the town dock where we put in, and it was very interesting, but looked like kind of a low budget outfit. But it was interesting, and we actually delayed our departure for a few hours because they were going to blow up a shark off the dock, and the kids wanted to see that. So anyway, what they did was throw a couple of cherry bombs in the water, and it really was a big letdown. But somebody, I think it might have been Steven Spielberg, asked us if we wouldn't be in the film, because they had seen us sailing up to the harbor and just thought it would be a great addition to the film Jaws, but we politely declined and took off. So missed our big chance there. So let me cut to the end of the story. We operated out of Mystic Seaport in the spring and the fall to try to extend the short Maine season, and then we took her down to the Caribbean to try to extend it even further. It was kind of a recession that time, so wasn't financially that successful. The second year we had her down there, we had a relief captain bringing her back, and he ran into some major leaking problems. And he got to Bermuda and couldn't find out what the problem was, and then started north with her, but got worried and turned around and went back to Bermuda. And it turned out an electrolysis problem had set in. We had been putting, I think we replaced at least a third of the planking, if not more, and all the ceiling, but using 6-7-inch galvanized boat nails, about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Well, they were pretty much toothpicks, apparently, due to this electrolysis. The theory is a battery cable had become loose at her bilge while she was down in the Caribbean, and we had to leave her in Bermuda. We just were at a place financially, we just couldn't afford another rebuild. So that was the end of our time owning the vessel. But we were fortunate a few years later when Gib Philbrook, and I thought I said saw Dick Klain on with us tonight. Who was Gib, Dick, and Anita, and a selectman, who was it? I can't think of a name right now. They bought her and put her in the Windjammer trade, and I leased her back from them for a few more years, working with the Cooperative Extension Service at the University of Maine. We added an island program, and by doing so, we cut the cost almost in half for the students, and we doubled the number that we could handle, because we used Pond Island off Cape Rozier, and we had 24 teachers and students on the Bowditch and 24 on Pond Island under another part of this environmental program, a marine environmental program. We had a huge 28-foot diameter teepee that housed the island crew, and it was quite a successful program educationally. But we were operating the shoulder seasons, either side of the Windjammer seasons, and you can imagine in Maine that was a pretty challenging time to sail. And so we eventually ended up not chartering her anymore. But it was a great time of my life and the chases. We had quite a thing going, and we really had a wonderful experience with Billings Diesel and Marine down in Stonington, and with the townspeople in Brooksville. Just this was the beginning of the back to the land time, and they were so excited to see the young people coming into town and doing what we were doing. So anyway, that's it in the short.
Well, how did they solve the electrolysis problem? Did they refasten the vessel?
They had to totally refasten her, yes. I was not part of that at all. We just pretty much turned her over to the Small Business Administration, which had gotten us going along with Camden National Bank. So that was, yeah, they had to totally refasten her, Jim.
And it's still a mystery how they got her back to Camden, to get back to Maine.
Well, she was totally refastened in Bermuda, and the bank.
They worked on her there.
Yeah, that was the thing. We had no way to do it. So they brought her back and brought her to, I think we're down in Southport. Last I saw her, she was in Anchorage down there waiting for her eventual sale to Kip and Dick Clean and Anita. And I don't know why I can't think of.
Roger, it was Kip Leach.
Kip, how could I forget Kip? Yeah, of course. Kip Leach was the third partner in that. Yeah. And then she moved to Rockland and had a great career with it as a windjammer. So.
Yeah.
There's Gib, yeah. And that wheel, let me just mention this a little bit. That wheel came from Lunenburg Foundry because when we went to pick her up at Southwest Harbor, somebody had stolen the wheel. So we had to bolt together some 2x4s. I have pictures of this. The trip back to Brooksville from Southwest Harbor was using a couple of 2x4s to steer with. We didn't care. We were excited to be aboard.
Well, there's Gib there, big smile on his face. That's a typical stance, isn't it? He was quite a guy. He had so much personality. He used to tell me he'd follow me around on the Adventure because he only drew 10 feet. The Adventure drew 14. He knew if he followed me, he'd be all right. That's the way he navigated the Maine coast. He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, Jim, I've got to disagree with you on that. This is Rich Klain the younger, and seems to me, I think my dad went to some places that you didn't go, and he was acting as a navigator there for several years. But they had a great time out there with Terry, and Gib, and my mother, and Kip Leach. I mean, it was a good time.
Yeah. Oh, no, he was a good sailor. He said that in jest, and I only repeat it in jest. He was quite a guy. Yeah. Vessel looks pretty good there, huh? And then, of course, the Doors took over, and they had her for 10 years. But they apparently got in behind the 8 ball. They had difficulty trying to keep their bills paid and so on. I don't know when this was taken. That wasn't taken for Jaws, was it? Anybody know whether this was?
I remember Owen doing that.
Whose tenure was that?
Oh, that's.
Give you one guess.
I remember that. That was Owen.
Was it?
That was Owen. Yeah.
I kind of thought it was. I slipped it in there.
Terry Philbrook, if you're still on this, you feel like you might want to chime in about the tenure of the boat under you and His Royal Gibness.
Okay. Terry, you're there, I think.
Yes, I'm here. I'm seeing a picture of the boat, which obviously we didn't have a picture of Jaws on there, but yes, Gib sailed we had the boat for 30 years. I met Gib the first year that he started sailing in 1976. I think he bought the boat in 75. And I was on the first summer with very few guests. And as I told lots of young ladies that would call and ask about, what type of clientele we had aboard, I said, well, I went sailing and ended up marrying the captain, but I can't promise you that if you come sailing with us. So anyhow, yeah, we had a good 30 years and lots of fun. And those were, Gib loved the boat, and he, I think the saddest, one of the saddest things, the day we sold the boat, he looked at me and he said, "My dream just ended." And so that was a sad day to hear him say that, because he enjoyed it all, and he certainly enjoyed the guests. And, I think they loved hearing his stories, and he entertained them as much as they entertained him. But Gib liked to laugh, as any of you that knew him recall. So yeah, those were a good 30 years.
Yeah. We miss
Had a
him.
great sense of humor.
Hi, my name is Denise, and I sailed on with Gib 3 times during the 90s, late 80s and 90s. And I just wanted to share that, those are some of the most memorable vacation stories that I have. All 3 times were just marvelous. And the last sail that my to-be husband and I did with Gib was we were on the boat on 9/11. And so those are stories that, will go down in infamy that we have told many, many times. But it's really exciting for me to listen in and hear the history, and to be able to remember those really fond memories and times that I had on the boat.
Well said.
That was the wooden boat sailing. Everybody was anchored up in Great Harbor and Wooden Boat Harbor. Is that right?
I don't remember,
Yes.
but I think so.
Well, the doors took over and went on from there until finally they went through some rocky times, and there's about bringing her in for the auction. I guess she was auctioned at Sharp's Wharf, and that was the end of the Doors' career with the vessel. And no, I guess as I understand it, they had the auction and nobody bought the boat. Is that right? Noah Barnes, are you there? Noah, did you go out for a beer?
I'm here. Is my video not on? Oh, wait a second. Hang on. Somehow I disconnected my video. Okay, so yeah. Sorry about that. As my recollection goes, the first auction was at the harbor in Camden. This is after the first auction. And I think they started the bidding at, I think they had the boat surveyed for what seemed like a normal amount of money for a boat that was in perfectly great shape. And they had the auction, and it was, I remember driving up, I was 5 minutes late to the auction, and I walked up and I ran up to my buddy Tim. I said, "What happened?" They said, "Well, they started the bidding at $375,000 and everybody kept their hands in their pockets." And so that was that. The boat then made her transition from Camden to our wharf at Windjammer Wharf in Rockland. And there you go. She sat there for a year. Is it not?
6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
And just to describe the sickness to which I am prone, which maybe some of you can empathize with, I had a crush on the Bowditch since I was about 8. And if you had asked me as a 10-year-old if there was another boat that I thought was pretty neat besides the one that I was growing up on or trying to, I would have said that I would take the Bowditch over the rest of them. And that's just how I felt. As it happened, my sister was the mess cook aboard with Gib, and I don't know, when she was 17 or 18, she was a freshman at Bennington. And I had just seen this boat, and I had seen it as man and boy. And to see her sit on our dock, covered up with a cover, with the pumps running was tough to bear. And eventually the broker who I was friendly with said, you should put in an offer. And I came home to Jane, who's sitting just out of frame. And I said, what if the price dropped a little bit? She'd be like, no. I'd be like, what if it dropped a little bit more? And she said, no.
Oh, Jesus.
Correctly so. I mean, correctly so. And at some point, it seemed at the time, and I'll tell you right now, with flash forward 2 years after that decision, it was a terrible idea, but we eventually put in an offer, and it was accepted to our chagrin. And should I go on? There were a couple of phone calls at the beginning before we put in an offer. One was to this guy, who JR and I had been friends and bandmates for a little while, and that JR was the guy that I thought maybe we could do this with. And then I called the builder that I wanted to work with, and he was the only guy that I wanted to work with as a builder. And both of them, to their ultimate satisfaction, right? To their triumph. They both said yes. So we put in an offer and it was accepted. And then geez, Roger, it sounds awfully familiar. We got into what we thought was a 40% rebuild. And as it turns out, what you're seeing there on the right-hand side of the screen is not so much of a deck as a sort of a filtration system which filtered out the larger droplets of rain, but let most of the smaller ones in. And it had reeked a great deal of, I mean, the covering boards were gone, the top timbers. We knew the top timbers were out. We knew the rail caps were gone. We knew the cabin structures were questionable, but the deck beams and then all the futtocks all the way down the side of the boat, as we got down into it, we just couldn't find anything good to attach other stuff to. And so what you're about to see is a very quick, I gave you a bunch of pictures, Jim, just feel free to scroll through them quickly. There was not a whole lot of great stuff left in. You can see Jimmy Kimmett there with all the lead. We lightened her up. We towed her to Lyman Morse, the head of the river there, where they had built the John F. Levitt was, I think, the last big schooner they had in there. And we hauled out right next to the travel lift, put her up and up.
I'm going to interject here.
Oh my
Go ahead.
We most definitely didn't tow her down. We had an enjoyable ride under her own power to get.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember. I think you were at the helm.
Yeah, you were nervous as could be when we left, but then you just had to let go.
I was never nervous during the whole thing, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, I'll stand down. I just had to interject.
It makes me nervous knowing you're there for this part, Mike. Why don't you take us through?
Okay.
Mike, go ahead and take us through these next bunch of slides.
Oh goodness, here we are. Here we are. Well, we jumped ahead. We were building the building, but now there's the building. Yeah, that was a large building, which was almost strong enough for the wind load that the St. George River provided. Thankfully, the boat kept it from falling over completely.
Yeah, we had to brace the building to the boat in a questionable act during a couple of storms.
And a bad winter it was.
Oh, there's there's my van visible. Oh, it's gone now.
Yeah. So it was the worst winter anybody could remember, right?
Maybe there was some snow.
There you can see the bracing from the vessel to the wall of the building.
Yeah.
There I am
And
making the
The
stem.
pile,
Simon today was bolting the new stem for Hindu to the knee. So same thing,
Great.
just a little smaller.
What year was this?
2015.
2014, 2015. Yeah.
well, this is what you were faced with down below. Look, all that poor old wood, all used up. Huh?
Yeah, that shear clamp's looking
Oh,
pretty
quick.
good there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So you
that
don't
was
take the
like
top
behind
off,
the ice
right?
box, which was where it was the worst.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, we were faced with, it was a winter of increasingly bad news. We sort of thought that we'd be able to save the galley. We actually took that giant deck house off with a crane and moved it very carefully, thinking that maybe we would put it back on the boat and the galley would be saved and the engine would be good and the windlass would still be good. And none of it was good. It was just not, it all was just, once you get deep into it to that degree, and you're not going to see those frame heads anymore. You're not going to see the keelson anymore for a lot of years. You make a hard decision. You just replace it. You take it out, you put another one in. It was a winter of bad news and very, very cold. So cold. How cold was it? It was so cold that we broke hammers. Hammers shattered, like 17 degrees. The gears on our old planer, old 1948 Delta planer just shattered.
You had to take plank off the bottom so you could throw the deadwood down through.
Yeah.
And pile it up underneath the vessel.
And we tried to burn a lot of it, but it wouldn't burn very well.
So this picture, we just missed it. Never mind.
Oh, can you go back one, Jim?
Or Robin.
Or Robin?
There is a little lag going on here, I guess.
Yeah, it's lagging again for a second, Jim. There you go.
I think Mike was going to say
Yeah,
something.
Mike, you had a
So
comment?
this picture was before we had really wrapped our heads around how far we were going to go. You can see there's still cement in the bilge. And I don't know why, but I remember that was Dan Engel made that pattern. I was like back by the engine room and he was starting to make some futtocks there. Not much later than that, we realized we were going to go a lot further and we would have the keelson out and therefore all the cement out. So I believe that futtock was made, but it didn't get put in the boat. Different, we had a few different stages where we were realizing how far we were going to go.
Stages of grief.
Yeah, stages of grief, stages of panic and grief, and gratitude.
Yeah,
bankruptcy.
say something, you got cut off.
Look at the mess.
Oy, what a mess!
What a mess. God, it's amazing.
Just don't swear.
But what a job. What a job. My God, incredible. Okay.
Keep going.
Here-
Don't
here's the
worry,
crew.
folks. It gets worse. That's
you had
that's
an
a year.
amazing
That's a
crew.
year and a half later.
We had an
Oh,
amazing
is it?
crew. We had an amazing crew.
We had an amazing crew. So this, I think, probably at the time, Mike, you can
Everybody look-
disagree if you want to.
That looks like Brooke.
This was the most
Everybody-
interesting
everybody
boat
looks
job on
happy.
the
How'd
East
you get
Coast.
it?
Oh, we fed them beer.
How'd you get them
How do
all
you
to
think?
smile?
They've all had a half a case of beer by this point, Jim. It's Friday.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah, if I had to guess, this would probably have been March or April 2016.
Yeah.
That's a
So
lot
I'd guess we probably did a, what do you think, Mike? 85%, 90% rebuild? We put some of the planking back on her, but
Yes, it was all of that. I mean, it's far easier to tell people what we didn't replace than what we did.
yeah. We didn't replace the horn timber, did we?
We replaced part of it.
Part of it.
Remember Simon scarfed in a piece? It was all behind the rudder shaft.
Yep, I remember.
And we added tail feathers to tie them together. And also they went up the transom in a departure from original.
I remember the tail feather situation being quite baffling.
Yeah, it turned out well. I think it's pretty unbreakable back there.
Turned out great. Turned out great.
Poor old frames. God.
Yeah, at this point we're like, well, these are bad, but the next ones down are going to be fine.
Bow to stern. And you must have checked every once in a while to see you're keeping the shape proper.
We paid a lot of attention to that. Every once in a while, I'd go back aft and I'd screw the jacks up a little bit more when Mike wasn't looking, and then he'd wait for me to leave. He'd come back and he'd loosen them up just a little bit because I was trying to put too much shear back into her.
Well, I remember both the bow and the stern. We pushed them up beyond where they ultimately ended up because I remember, what was his name? Matt Smith drew that shear line. It was really only, I think, the only usable drawing he gave us, but he drew a very nice shear and we built to that.
Those are all new frames there. Look at that.
Isn't that beautiful? God, the work. Wow. Fantastic. All the way down to the very bottom of her. That's the last piece of ballast, huh?
Yeah, if you look aft, you can see there's one frame that's not complete. I remember we waited like 2 weeks for more wood to finish that one frame.
Interestingly, everything under the cement was in pretty good shape.
Usually is.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. That's quite an office.
That's how much snow we had that winter. That's my backyard.
Yeah.
And that's the lunch spot. That's the only place that had any heat was right there. The lunch spot. First deck beam. Just sitting there.
That's a cool shot. That's a great shot.
Don't forget the engine mounts.
over there.
Yeah.
Oh, look.
That's after mainly concrete poured us some new, we put some cement back in there because it seemed to work. Buried some lead in there, and that's our brand new John Deere. Oddly yellow. Look at that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Nice work there, Mr. Rogers.
I did it all myself.
Good job.
Yeah. Gee.
I mean, thank you.
It's a work of art. A work
Yeah,
of
look
art.
at that.
God. And finally getting the ceiling, and I know we're laying ahead here.
Look at those deck beams. Look how they're all notched in.
Yeah, beautiful joinery. There's lock scarves there.
Well, I spent a lot of time on the American Eagle, laying in my bunk and admiring how John and his crew notched all that in, and that's how I wanted to do it.
Yeah, God, it's beautiful, beautiful work.
There's Brian.
And finally have one deck.
Yeah.
Fairing the deck frame.
There's JR fairing the hull.
And Jim Parker wearing quite a lot of wood chips.
Little Jimmy Parker. He's just planing things over his face. That's Simon. There's Simon with his worm drive ancient circular saw.
And JR with his pitch.
JR pretending to be happy. And there she is. Look at that.
Man, oh man.
Give her a speeding ticket. Look at that boat. Jesus.
Hey, this is Carl Smith, the grandson, the great grandson.
I love that.
This is the great grandson of the first skipper.
Yep.
My mom wanted to know what was the reason for the change in color.
Good point. And I have to say, you probably won't be satisfied with it, but the boat, having been visibly laid up and in terrible shape in our community and in our industry for so long, I think the number one reason was a rebranding and to make it clear, definitively clear, that she was taking a daddy step closer to being a one of the white fleet, a yacht. And that was a clear visual marker of that. And I like that. I like that cream color. I like that off-white. I thought it was classy, and a practical reason that I know that several of fellow captains and large wooden boats to paint a boat dark is to help it dry out. And that was not our problem anymore. We put in the most fantastically dry, ancient growth, longleaf yellow pine reclaimed decking on the top sides that we didn't need to heat the boat up and dry it out.
I approve of the white color. My mom was a little discerned about it because she grew up with the black hull. She was always a favorite of that.
I can respect that. And I apologize for switching things up like that. It's also a fact that a white hull actually seems larger. I remember when the Mary Day went black for a couple of seasons, she just kind of seemed a little smaller to me in my whatever the how I was 11 or 12 when Hattie painted her black. It was a little jarring to me. Anyway, that's all.
Okay, I got one more question. My family went on a cruise during the 100th anniversary of Arcadia.
Uh-huh.
And they had that big schooner sailing up some sound. So we were there for that. The only downside to the whole cruise was in the middle of the night when somebody went to flush the toilet. The water pump was so loud it shook and it vibrated the boat. Have you fixed that issue yet?
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain J.R. Brough.
Yeah, we finally did. We got the latest and greatest technology in supply pumps. Couple thousand dollars later, that problem is not a problem anymore.
Beautiful.
Dead quiet. In case anybody wants to know, just pass it along. It's dead quiet now. $2,500 later, it's perfect.
Love you. Thank you.
It was loud. I agree with you. I agree with you. It was a bit of a travesty, but we got after it in about the third year. I think we got after that. Okay.
Beautiful.
All fixed.
We had a fabulous time.
Good. That's great.
That was about 1 o'clock in the morning. A gilding party.
The gilding party, yeah. And
Look at that.
the sale plan.
So is she gonna get the top hamper again?
I'd like to say yes. It's in the works. Look at her go.
Oh, great shot.
What a great shot.
Who shot that?
That is a
know.
great picture.
Jim, where did that picture come from? That's great. First
I don't
season.
know, I dig it
First
up
season,
somewhere
old
there.
foresail.
Yeah, old foresail.
That foresail is going.
Right.
Foresail's just trying not to give way. That's our old. That was the last season of that foresail. Look at her go, man! Just, what a machine.
Yeah.
There he is.
Look at that handsome guy.
Oh man, really?
Who's that?
Jeez. He means a devoted host. Absolutely devoted.
They're the two sisters.
Nice. Great shot.
Look at the magnificent shine on that vessel now. My God, she is some fancy yacht.
The dining table is really
What?
nice.
What is this round thing with holes in it there? No, what on board the vessel? What does that do?
Oh, that is a guest appreciation device. Made out of solid
that brings them back,
solid
does it?
copper,
Brass.
and it goes brass, and it goes a long way to convincing the guests that we were serious about taking care of them.
Jerry
There's the
Hogan
galley.
on there. Yeah, take a look at the galley here. Jerry, you must spend all your time down there.
It's a nice room.
Jim, I'm on here and I'm looking at your pictures. I've got some I'd like to show, but let me know when I'm supposed to go in, okay?
Well, yeah, at the end of it, we'll let you jump in there. All right? We only have a few more pictures here to go through. Everybody chowing down.
We haven't painted the bulkhead door yet.
We hadn't done it. So as an interesting aside, the very large butterfly hatch that's provides all that lovely light, much of that light to the galley came off of the Fife Schooner Adventurous. And our friends at the Rockport Apprentice Shop, the Rockland Apprentice Shop, had taken it off of the Rockport Marine rebuild and stowed it for us. Or stowed it, and then they said, you should have this. So this gorgeous teak, beautiful butterfly hatch came to us, and it was just the right size.
That's my family right there, and that all lined up at the table having dinner for that cruise with the.
Oh, is it really?
yeah?
God,
Yeah.
That's great. How about that? Thanks for calling that out. That's a favorite. That's one of my favorite pictures. That banquet table from above. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, Allagash was supplying all the booze.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
nice.
That was a great afternoon.
Oh yeah.
That was a lot of years ago now. That was great. Thanks for saying that.
That's a nice looking transom.
Wow. Cool shot.
Sure is.
I think I took that picture.
Sure is. Cool shot.
There you go.
And this picture, I don't know when this picture.
That's
This
about
picture
it.
was before, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
That's about it. Yeah. Well, that's about the end of it. What a great program. Just want to say we have another one coming up here in 2 weeks, November 23rd. We're going to do the Schooner Isaac Evans and all the various captains, various people that have been connected with the Isaac Evans. She has a great long history and a very convoluted one. So I think that'll be an interesting program too.
Jim, if I may, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if we have any questions, anybody else chime in, now'll be a good time to do it before I tell everybody about my book.
I thought I'd already bought all your books.
Have you bought them for all of your? Have you bought them for all of your friends yet?
Well, at the price, I must have.
Good. Christmas is coming, you know, make great gifts. Anyway,
Captain Noah, I have a
anybody
question
jump in
for
there?
you.
Question for Noah.
Here
Okay.
you have some pictures. Yeah.
Yes, do you, I sailed with the Stephen Tabor late July, and I was wondering, do you have any charging stations for cell phones on the Ladona near the captain's cabin?
The cabins.
On Ladona, we sort of went a little bit crazy trying to make sure that we were anticipating all the guests' needs. So on Ladona, there is an outlet and a charging and a USB outlet in every cabin for all the guests. There's also a place to centrally charge it if you're not in your cabin, but all the cabins have 110 outlet and USB ports.
Okay, I was just wondering if you've been woken up at 4 a.m. lately.
By a
cell phone alarm.
by a ringing cell phone or an alarm. Yeah, that's a problem, and I eventually worked that into my captain's call.
We were wondering about that.
People don't tend to pay attention to you for that long unless you try and make it funny. So I usually tell that story. Told it every week.
Oh, very good. Very good. Have a great season.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you. So if I can just brag on you for a second, Jim, I just think it's amazing, this thing that you built in your quote retirement, the Sail Power and Steam Museum. It's just extraordinary. It's amazing to see the new building go in. It's amazingly, it's well designed. It's well, it's well pointed out. It's an exciting place, and as a private, fairly like more or less a private museum. I mean, I know that there's an army of volunteers, etc. But as an extension of yourself and your personality, I have to say it's pretty amazing. So well done. And the sailing program for kids, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Democratizing sailing is kind of why we're in the windjamming business. So one of the reasons.
That sailing stuff for kids, that skiff program just tickles me all over.
That's fantastic.
Can't get excited enough. And it's going off like a rocket, you know, it's just all over town. Jerry, you said you had some pictures?
Yes, I do, sir. First of all, I want to tell Jim and all you other knowledgeable people, I feel guilty. After listening to the history that you have with this boat and the beauty of it and what you've done with it, I'm humbled with all of you. Your knowledge of it is just amazing. I feel like I stole something because I went up there for 1 week to sail on this thing. Turned out to be what I would have to categorize one of the best, if not the best, vacation I've ever had. The beauty was beyond what I ever expected. And what I've got here is a series of my pictures that are not going to do any justice to the boat. Your final, I mean, everything that you've shown so far, I'm not sure if I were watching this, trying to decide whether I'd want to get on that thing with all that rotten wood or not. But I'll tell you, do it, because look at this. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
She's beautiful. I looked
Great
up
shot. That's great.
the Portuguese word for Donna is madam or sign of respect. And this lady should be the Queen of Camden. She's beautiful, just beautiful. I know she's in Rockland, but okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this thing, you just look at this. The more I look at it often, nothing's prettier than that. I'd rather see that than a good burlesque show at this age.
Man.
Let's see if I can get this down where it, there.
Beautiful stem head that Mike made.
All right. And for those that haven't got a chance to speak, I'm just curious whether they want to get on this thing or not. Take a look at these pictures. All this real wood. Just even the name, Madonna, the way you've done that, it is such a picturesque. You've created a work of art, guys. You have created a work of art. And that goes, I'll get to the other part in a second, but I took pictures. I have so many, but I'm not going to show you. This is where the magic happens. That's looking down into the galley. And I was mesmerized the whole time I was on the boat, and I was totally sober. It was just, I was drunken with the beauty of this thing. I love sailboats, first of all. And this thing, everywhere I looked, it was perfection. I don't know how you people dreamed up all this. Now here's where we're going our first night. And Jim, is his name Carl, the guy with the beard and that dinghy? What is his name? I forgot him.
Gus?
Yeah, Gus.
It's Gus.
Okay. The guy, big hulking brute of a guy, just as nice as it could be. Look at this picture. They were warming up the fires to cook our supper. Oh my God.
Oh, you know where that is?
That's hadn't been so ugly.
Oh, nice. That's the point at Pickering.
Look at this.
We've been there that one time.
Couldn't stop taking pictures. Now, that didn't do the boat any justice.
Yeah, I think that is Pickering.
Do you remember JR? Are you on here?
Yeah. Oh, I believe that that picnic is at Pickering Island. I'm thinking, I remember it just like yesterday. We'd only been there once or twice. I don't think we ever went again after our trip, but I do remember that trip. That was 6 years ago, wasn't it?
August 31st, 2017.
Yeah, it was. I remember that like it was yesterday. It was great. That was great fun going to Pickering there.
Now look at this picture. Look at that. I tell you, as I look back on this picture, I'm surprised
it was a second.
Probation officers. Look at this.
Oh man.
And I'll tell you something, JR, your crew, I don't know if it's the same crew all there again or not, but they're
some of them, yes.
I see the big guy on the left. Is that the one? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's Gus.
That's Gussie.
Gus Kodros. Yeah, he became a skipper, and he drove the Appledore all summer in Camden. So he became a licensed skipper, and great career he's had.
What is the name of the girl in the black shirt?
Susanna Smith. She was the gal. She was a galley hand that year. Now she works on at Victory Chimes. She's administrator for Victory Chimes today.
Let me tell you something. Look at this picture. That kid, to me, she's a kid, barefoot, no coat. I was dressed up in triple layers. She was wading in the water barefoot.
Tristan Lewis.
Yeah.
A true Maynard.
Let's go back. I want to give credit to Anna for all that she does.
Yeah, good call. Yeah, good call. There she is.
There's Anna in the middle, and she is fantastic.
Yeah, she's smiling there. It's nice.
Can you believe can you believe she's going into our 7th season? We'll be starting with Anna Miller. Just a couple short months. We're going into season 7 with her. She's hung in there all this time.
After eating her food, I want to marry her.
Still single.
Anna's gotten some great write-ups. Anna's gotten some great write-ups in different articles I've read.
She should. I tell you, when you go to this trip, I'm taking too much time here, but how could what few people we had on that boat at that time eat all this. This wasn't even all the darn food you guys were cooking. I've never had so many lobsters shoved at me in my life.
Did you ever have those things before?
Yeah,
It's
I've had a
good.
couple
You
of those
had that
things. Yeah,
before?
yeah, I like that.
it's
I like
good.
it. I like it when it works out like
It's
that.
awesome. Yeah.
It's nice.
JR, I hate to tell you, I got my money back in eating all your darn lobster.
You got to come see us again, all right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm telling you, I thought I was turning into an insect. I ate so many bugs. Oh, man.
I have a
Is that a classic picture or what?
nice shot.
Buddy, I had this thing blown up. It's in my family room on the wall.
Nice.
That's the way we do it in Maine,
back to the
Jerry. You just gotta
barefoot
get
Susanna.
out of that darn.
Get it back to
You gotta get away from Florida, Jerry.
Yeah, I will. Give me more scotch, Jim. Remember, that little girl was barefoot walking on this beach in the cold. Holy cow.
They're tough in Maine, Jerry. You're too used to that Florida living.
I think Susanna's tougher than I'm ever going to be.
She's tough. Look at this picture. As the night started falling, you guys just sucked us right in. I couldn't stop taking pictures. Again, I've got this one in my family room too, blown up. Look at this. You started turning with what breeze was there. And all I can tell is the people that are watching this that have not been on there, this could be you in that longboat. Do it. Do it. It's going to be me again. I'm coming back up.
We're gonna hire you.
All right.
Look at this. And it kept getting darker, which I expected.
Yeah, that was Pickering. Yeah, that was a great night. That was a great night at Pickering Island. I remember that sunset. I got some pictures from that day too.
And it was cold.
Did we leave? Did we pull up the anchor that night and head up to Bucks Harbor that same night, or we stay right there for the night?
No, we stayed right there. We stayed right there. And I ate and ate and ate.
Where are the pictures of the fog, Jerry?
Didn't have
it. Of the what?
Fog.
The
There's
fog.
no fog in Maine.
We have wonderful fog in Maine.
No, I didn't.
If you haven't experienced our fog, you haven't been to Maine.
Well, I would hate to have paid all that and only looked out and saw a fog bank. Okay, JR, thank you.
Life jackets. Just kind of
Look at this thing. I'm in love with this boat. I really am.
I would never know.
What was the whole deck before we got out to the deck?
The next day, JR, it was blowing up, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, where do we go the next day?
Yeah, north.
North.
Look at, I'm triple layered. You can't tell there. I'm not really. At that time, I was a lot skinnier, but not there. I was triple layered, and Suzanne, I look back at her, she had shoes on at last, but she still had no coat.
You're just a Florida boy. You're just, you don't have any blood.
Going back to this picture, if anyone is watching and thinking about doing this, I'll say it again, do it. But you got to bring some things with you. Number one, lots of warm clothes, even in August 31st, an appetite, and bring someone that likes an adventure. Because when they come off that boat, if they didn't like it, get rid of them and go get another one. This takes a special personality.
It's a
couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, it is a polarizing date. As a first date, you'll either yes or a no.
It saves you a lot of money on wasted meals and flowers. But I tell you,
great. That's great endorsement, Jerry. Thank you so much for much for saying that.
Yep.
This is heartfelt, guys. I just can't believe this. And isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
It was kicking that day. And now this was our, I think as I recall, this was our snack between breakfast and lunch.
Sure.
I love your chef.
Nice.
Holy cow. Anna was fantastic. The whole crew was. You're just great. Yeah, I think we were going in for the celebration at the tall ship one.
Yeah.
I look at that.
Camden Windjammer weekend.
I'm good. I want to do one more thing if I can get to it. I think it's worthwhile. Hold on.
Hey, careful, Jerry. You're cutting into Jim's endorsement of the museum time.
If this isn't. Is this worth it? This is short.
Oh, that was nice.
For those of you who think you get on a sailboat and it goes slow, no. I'm about through here, guys. I think that'll do it. What the hell?
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, great presentation. Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. And thank you, JR. Please thank Anna and the remainder of your crew. I really, really appreciate them.
All right, that's great. Some of them are listening in, so we'll definitely let them know. Thank you. That means a lot to us. That's what, honestly, for all the things the boat's been through, that is what makes it all worthwhile. All things we discussed tonight. It was, you know, a lot of toil and to get where we are, but hearing that from you makes it all worthwhile. Right there. That's why we did it. And it's just great to hear.
Jim did not bribe me.
Hear, hear.
Jim did not bribe me this time.
Oh, good.
Great endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you all for coming. Come back and see us in a couple of weeks. See the next Zoom program from the World Famous Sail Power Steam Museum.